What's up, folks? Welcome to Woodworking Against the Grain. We're back in the kitchen. It's almost Halloween, and we're going to make some homemade cinnamon rolls today. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned. We're going to make some good old-fashioned cinnamon rolls that'll knock your socks off. They're good enough to make a puppy pull a freight train. We're going to start out by putting 2½ cups of flour in this mixing bowl right here. Remember, when you're doing flour, told you this before, I'm going to tell you again, you want to spoon your flour into your cup. That way it's not packed down. You don't get too much in there. We got 1, 2 1/2 cups of good all-purpose flour going in this mixing bowl. We're going to add 1/2 cup of sugar to that, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 packages of dry yeast. That's what's going to make them delicious, make them rise up above everything else. 3 whole eggs, 1/2 cup of melted butter. That's just what's going to make it yummy right there. Can't go wrong with melted butter. Now we got 2 cups of hot tap water. Doesn't have to be boiling, just hot out of the faucet. And once we get all this in this mixing bowl, we're going to turn it on about medium speed for about 2½ or 3 minutes and let this stuff mix up good. Give it about 2 minutes there, let these eggs mix in with this sugar and flour. Then we're going to put some more flour in it and work it in some more. Stay with us. All right, that's about 2 minutes worth of mixing there. Now we're going to add another cup of this all-purpose flour to this mixture. Turn that back on for just a little bit and let it go. Y'all got your Halloween costume picked out? We're going to a Halloween party tonight. I've got to figure out something to wear. I don't have it figured out yet, but it's going to be good. We'll give this about another 2 minutes with this flour, and then we're going to put quite a bit more flour in it, stir it in, and then we're going to take it out and put it on this cloth over here, and then that's when the work begins. This is a pretty simple recipe. It takes a little time to do because you got to let this rise a couple of times and all that. But the trick is going to be in the kneading of this dough and getting the texture just right. And that's kind of what sets these apart from other recipes you'll see. If you'll take the time to do this right, you'll be glad you did when you get them out of the oven. We got this about 2 more minutes here. I'm going to turn it back off and add another 2½ cups of more flour, and that's going to start making this come together more. Right now it looks more like a cake batter. We get the rest of this flour in here, it's going to look more like a bread dough. There's another cup. You don't really have to sift this flour for this recipe because you're going to do so much work in this dough that it doesn't really matter if it's sifted or not. Normally I'd say sift your flour always, but not so much when you're making bread. That's another 2 cups. Make a 2 1/2 here. Get all this worked in good. Be just about right. Kind of rake that off there. You don't want too much flour in it because you may have to work a little more flour in it in a minute. Start with. We're going to turn this back on just a little bit. Turn it on kind of slow. Once you get that kind of coming together as a dough, we're going to take this out of this bowl. And you're going to think for a little while that this is just not working out because it's going to be kind of wet. It's going to be real sticky. But if you'll just keep working it on your kneading board over there, and if you have to add just a little bit of flour to it, that's fine. You'll finally get this to where it comes together in a nice big ball of dough, and that's what we want here in just a minute. Flour sticking to my mixer here. That's going to be pretty good stuff. I'm going to turn that off just a second there and scrape this bowl down one time. Got some dry flour up here on the sides. It ain't mixed down in there good just yet. Get that off of there. Spin it just a little bit more. Got to clean off our dasher there a little bit. Now this is real wet and sticky right now. You're going to think this is not going to come together, but just be patient and it will. Alright, we're going to put some flour on our board here. Kind of smear that around just a little bit there. Want to get quite a bit on there so you some of that worked into this as we go. It's going to be real sticky while we start out with. Now, I'm going to start out with this, kneading this a little bit, but I'm not going to make you endure watching the whole 10 minutes of this. But it's very important that you knead this dough like I'm going to show you how to knead it, and then you need to set you a timer and knead it for a good 8 to 10 minutes. That's all about getting the texture right. If you skimp on the kneading process, you're going to skimp on the flavor. And if you don't want to do them right, just go buy you a can of Pillsbury cinnamon rolls and don't worry about it. You want them to be good, take the time to do it right. Dump this out in the middle of that flour. And be ready to get your hands dirty. Here we go. Now I'm going to put a little flour on top of this. And this makes a pretty good size recipe too. If you don't want very many cinnamon rolls, you cut this recipe in half and still make quite a few. Now, right now we're just going to turn this with our hand. I try to do it with just one hand. That way I keep one clean in case something else comes up that you got to do. But just play with this dough until you get enough flour worked in it there that it comes together for you. And you're going to think for a little while that it's not going to happen. Take my word for it. I've made these several times. It eventually picks up enough of this flour that it stops sticking to your hand. It makes a good ball of dough for you to start kneading. Well, this is not really the kneading process just yet. This is just trying to get this to come together as a good ball of dough. I tried to make these about a month ago, and I was going to do the whole video thing, but I got them all made up and let them rise and punched them down and got all the kneading process done. You know, when I got ready to cut them out, went over there and turned the oven on and it wouldn't come on. So we had to get the oven repaired. Had to wait on a part for a week or so, so didn't get to finish that video. And they flopped anyway because after they had risen the second time, I had to take them to another house to bake them. By the time I got over there, they had fallen, and it just didn't, the texture was just all wrong. It didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. Don't be afraid to work more flour in here, because you got to get this ball dry enough that you can handle it before you can start kneading it just right. You see, now I can touch it and it doesn't stick to my hands. That was already stuck on there. So I'm going to show you how to do this kneading process and then I won't make you endure the whole thing. But be sure and knead this for a good 8 to 10 minutes. Once you get this to where it comes together as a ball, like that, and you still got some good flour on your surface here, get it down there kind of flat, not real flat. And what you want to do now is take what's closest to you and fold it over and mash it in. And then take what's furthest away from you and fold it back. And just with the heel of your hand, work that gluten in that flour for a good 8 to 10 minutes. Set you a timer, because you'll think you've done it for 8 to 10 minutes, and it'll really only be 3. So set you a little timer or watch the clock or whatever, but do this for a good long time, and this will make the texture of your cinnamon rolls come out. All right, look here. Finally got our dough ball kneaded up good there for about 10 good minutes. You'll think, well, that's not going to make very many rolls. We're going to put this in this bowl right here, and we're going to put it in a warm place for about an hour and a half, and it's going to rise to fill this bowl. It'll be just almost full. We've got this kneaded up real good here. You should get a good texture out of this. All we're going to do now, make sure you butter that bowl good so your dough doesn't stick to it, because it's going to, as it rises, it's going to press against the walls of the bowl, and you'll have to tear it off there if you don't grease that with something. So just rub you some butter on that bowl. Take your dough ball when you get it good and round and just set it in the middle right there, and we're going to put this in a good warm place till it doubles in size. Take about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then we'll come back, we'll punch it down and put our cinnamon in it and roll it out into cinnamon rolls, and we'll let it rise one more time before we bake it. Don't go away, you don't want to miss this. Welcome back, folks. Look here, we got our dough all rose up. It filled up the bowl. I've already done half of these, and for some reason my microphone was unplugged and you can't hear it. So you're going to get to see the second half of this rather than the first. What we've got here is the other half of our ball of dough. We're going to dump it out right there on a little bit of flour. Smear that around just a little bit. We're going to roll this out into a rectangle in just a minute. And I get this like I want it. Get a little bit of flour up here on it. We're going to take this rolling pin that I made out of solid maple out there in the actual woodworking against the grain woodworking shop. We do work out there sometimes. We got our dough all ready. Now we're going to roll this out into a rectangle. We're going to make a decision on what we want inside. Put that there, and then we're going to roll this up into some cinnamon rolls. And I'll show you how to cut them. Then we're going to let them rise one more time before we bake them. Kind of roll this out into a little bit of a rectangle there. It's not, doesn't have to be pie crust thin. You just want to get it out there down to about a ½ inch or so, like that. Now here's where your decision-making process comes in. You know how to make a decision. You've done that before. Here's where you decide what you want to do with your bread. And we're going to put cinnamon and sugar in here before we roll this up, but if you wanted to make jelly rolls, this would be the place where you'd put your jelly. We've got a mixture here of 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, ground cinnamon, a stick of butter, melted, and then we got 2 tablespoons of white granulated sugar and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now we're going to mop this on the top of this layer of dough. We've already got the other half done, so we're going to be pretty liberal with this. We're going to use up everything we got here except what we spill on the counter. That doesn't count because we'll lick that up later. Get this all over the top of your dough here. Just paint it on there with a brush or smear it on there with your finger, just whatever you want to do. It really doesn't make any difference to me. Once you get that cinnamon paste on there real good, like that, get it smeared around like you want it there. Now, might want to zoom in on this a little bit. Here's where it gets down to the nitty and the gritty. We're going to take this dough and we're going to roll it up round. I'll show you why in just a minute. We're going to roll this up just tight as we can roll it. Just roll it up like you're going to light it and smoke it. But we're not. We're going to brown it, cook it, and eat it. You get it rolled up good, just like that. Now we've got a little... Here's the easiest way in the world to cut cinnamon rolls. What I've got right here is a piece, I don't know if you can see it or not because it's real thin, of ordinary dental floss. Alright? We're going to slide the dental floss under the dough back to about a ½ inch or so there, maybe an inch, and then we're just going to pull that through. And it makes a nice clean cut for your roll. And we're going to put that over here on a greased cookie sheet. Then we're going to do the same thing again. Go under about 3/4 of an inch in, pull it through. Makes a nice little cut. Set it on your pan. We're going to do that all the way down this dough. Then we're going to set these back in a warm spot, let them rise again until they're double in size, and then we're going to bake them. Alright, we got our cinnamon rolls out of the oven. They turned out pretty good. Hope you can see that. That's what they look like right there when they come out. We're going to, since it's Halloween, I made the glaze orange. What we're going to do now is test one of these out. They're still pretty warm. I'm going to get one of these on the plate right here. I want to drizzle just a little bit of this glaze on top of it. Just a little bit. Make sure they turned out alright. It's best with a good hot cup of coffee too. Keep that in mind. That's just hard to beat. Thanks for watching. Come back to see us.